And welcome to the connection trap. So, this is actually the third in a series of recordings that I'm doing. Alex, are you coming up in the middle of your screen or is it just on mine? It's so weird.
I think just on yours, but I
Okay,
see everybody's little boxes, so I don't
okay.
know what view I
It's
have.
so weird. Like when
But
I'm
you
looking at
get
the
just me
screen,
then.
which I don't mind, but I'm like, is that what everyone's seeing? Okay, got it. Let me just switch this over then so I can see everyone. Okay, before I actually start, this is going to bug me now. Can someone who knows about Zoom put in the chat, like, I know there's a way I can make it so that you can just see me when I'm recording? I would love that. Curtis would be so mad at me that I don't have him on here helping me to do this because he would help me with
Do
it.
you have view tab in
Yeah.
the top right?
Yeah. Go to speaker.
Go to speaker.
Okay, cool. See, then
And
it brings
hopefully
you
that
up.
makes me, oh,
It's so funny, but that's okay. Can you see me as the speaker then?
yes.
Okay, cool. That's all that matters. All right, I'm going to dig in. I want to start really with the question, why is this important? Why are we talking about the connection trap? And why am I talking about why habits of thinking are affecting your ability to connect with people? So, before we dig in, I've got to assume that some of you have never looked at the Habit Finder assessment or you're new to it. You've not really engaged with it much, or maybe you have, but it's been a while. So, I want to make sure that you, first of all, know where and how to look at your Habit Finder assessment. If you have not taken the Habit Finder and you're watching this recording or you're on live, I would ask that you take a second or even just pause and come back or watch the recording later and take it first because I'm really going to be referencing your Habit Finder as I go through this section. So, I'm going to show you, you can take the habit finder, first of all, on my website, which is amykemp.com. I'm actually going to throw in the chat right now the link to the habit finder directly so that if you want to take it, you can. Or that's also the link you can go to find your habit finder to go and log in so you can have it up as I'm teaching this class. I'm going to show you my habit finder. I have it pulled up over here, and I'm going to kind of walk you through where we're going to be looking today. So here's my habit finder. Um, if you look on this page right here, you can see that there are 6 tabs: connection, mental creation, physical creation, structure, personal fulfillment, and self-worth. In this assessment tool, there are 3 areas that are measuring your habits of thinking in your inner world. And then there are 3 that are measuring your habits of thinking in your outer world or how you're interacting with the external world. Connection is one of those. And so we're going to click on this first tab that says connection. And if you scroll down and you look at these tabs right here, every single one, if you click on it, on the right-hand side, you'll see your results and then you'll see the ideal habit. So you'll see this is what your habit of thinking would look like if it was green under the ideal habit. And then if you have risk in this area of thinking, you can click on your results and sort of read what that means. So you can spend some time here. Another fun option, if you haven't spent a lot of time here, is this little printer icon. If you click on it, it brings up a full PDF of your entire habit finder. And so you can open that PDF and it's a 44-page PDF. So if you're looking at this as I'm going through today, I'll say you're going to click on the connection tab if you're online live, or I'll say in your PDF, it's going to be found on page, and then I'll tell you the page to reference. So I'll be kind of giving you both, but it is important that you have it with you because this section is what we're going to really focus in on today during our time together. I want to be really clear also. Let me just get out of my share here so that you can see my face. I want to be really clear about what this tool is measuring. And some of you have heard me say this so many times, it probably is ad nauseum, but this is not measuring any kind of characteristic or personality trait or strength. This is measuring risk. It's measuring risk that your habits of thinking that are happening at a subconscious level, you're not even aware of it, are falling into certain grooves and they're happening without you even noticing it. You aren't aware of it, but all day long, it's like the slide on Chutes and Ladders where you land on that space and then your habits just go right down that slide. Sometimes I'll also think of the measurements like a guitar, where yellow, orange, or red just means that you're a little out of tune and you don't need to cut the chord. It's just a matter of making adjustments so that you're back in tune in that green area. This is also a very fluid tool. So you could take it now and you could take it in 6 months and it could be totally different. It's not like a personality assessment where it generally stays the same throughout your life. If your life changes a lot, maybe you take on a new role at work or maybe you have a new baby or maybe you move, a lot of habits of thinking can be affected by that as well. So just be aware of what we're measuring and what it means. This is also the third in a series of teaching sessions that I've done. And I'm going to put in the chat the links to the first two, and we'll include those in my follow-up email to you as well if you're not somewhere where you can capture them, because both of them have gotten a lot of watches. The first one was called the triple trap. So these are three habits of thinking that show up um, during times of uncertainty. One of those habits of thinking of the three that I covered that day is actually in the connection section. So I'm not going to spend any time on it today, but it's the top measurement that leans toward guarded. So that's the triple trap. The second one that I did was called the conditional trap. This one, I really went deep into only one habit of thinking that's found in the self-worth section of the assessment. So if you have risk in that measurement that's toward conditional, it's the top measurement in the self-worth section. You can go and watch these videos. Also, it's a teaching session just like this one and learn all about those habits of thinking in those other areas. So those are fun options. They are also on my YouTube channel if you want to find them there. Okay, so today we're going to talk about connection in this whole section that's just on connecting with people. I'm wondering if you could throw in the chat as I'm kind of digging into this, why it would be beneficial for you to be able to connect better with people or to connect with more people. Like just why would this matter to you? Why do you want to connect with people more accurately? Or why do you want better relationships in your life or in your work? What is the benefit to having those relationships? So I'm going to give you a minute to do that as I'm kind of talking. Um, but all of the areas where you see risk in this area tell me that your subconscious mind is creating resistance to you connecting with people. It's saying, like, I want to connect with this person, but there's something holding me back. And that resistance is really important to pay attention to. And why would your brain do that is the question. And the answer is really simple. It's to keep you safe. So to keep you safe, human beings, we are all hardwired to survive. Think back to maybe even when we were cave people and someone you didn't know walked up to us. Our brains went into overdrive, having to decide, is this person a friend? Am I at risk of not surviving this encounter? And so much of our wiring, just our deep, old wiring as human beings, is reflecting this instinct of protection and trying to stay safe. Also, if you've been hurt by people in certain relationships in your life, whether that's in a work context or a personal one, your brain is going to be more vigilant, more hyper aware, and more protective because it's hardwired to survive. So, again, our subconscious brain and all of our habits of thinking that we're talking about here are not good or bad. They're just trying to keep you safe. But some of those habits can keep you from connecting with people like you really want to. Okay. Connecting with people is important for building trust. I'm reading a couple of answers in the chat. Trust is vital for managing change. Oh, this is so important. Yes, Michelle. Um, Connection with people is the first step in getting stuff done, especially in a work environment. I think all of us have worked in a place where trust was low and experienced how detrimental that was to any kind of progress. Also, we have down wide age range of staff. Oh, yeah, 18 to 65. So, feeling more connected with them. I think this is important. The more diverse the group of people is that you're trying to connect with, the more challenges you might face in that um, pursuit, I guess I would call it. I tend to feel guarded with my interactions unless I'm 100% confident in that relationship. It leaves me feeling uncertain and not being able to be my full self. Absolutely. Imagine just being able to show up in any room with anyone without a ton of noise in your head, especially a room full of people you don't know. What if you could just walk in and be you and not have to contend with all of this internal dialogue that's kind of disrupting you? One more I'll read. Connecting with people is helpful to see where they light up and add value and line that up with team goals that they own. Yes, absolutely. Especially if you're trying to grow a business. I mean, connecting with people is the bridge to any kind of growth in an organization or in a business. The first step is relationships. So it is vital in almost every setting that we connect with people and beneficial also. All right. Now let's dig in. I want to start with a measurement today, and I'm actually going to share my screen to show it to you on the um, this is the PDF version, but you can see. So this is actually one of the first measurements that's in this tab, and it's under the observant bar. So in the center of the bar, you're going to see the word observant, and then yours is showing risk to the left. This is actually a picture of my assessment, and I have to tell you about this measurement a little bit. When I started using this tool about 9 years ago, I never saw risk in this area on any assessments. And it was almost always green. In fact, in my original notes, when I learned about this assessment, like when I went through the whole certification process, I put on there, this is very rare. It was in my notes that I said that. But in the last couple of years, I am seeing this red toward indifferent on almost every assessment. And it's such a shocking change. And so I was on this coach training call recently for all of the coaches who use this assessment tool. Dave Blanchard is the owner of the company, but he created the tool. So he is the creator of the assessment tool. And I said, Dave, I know there's been some updates to some of the language in the Habit Finder recently. Is that why this measurement is showing up so much more? In fact, it was read so much that I was kind of ignoring it and just chalking it up to maybe the change in the assessment. And he said, do not ignore this change. This is really important to pay attention to. And he has been leaning in and really exploring why with a lot of people. So if you have this measurement toward red, um, I want to really quick see before I start, I'm going to put you in the gallery view. I want to see how many of you have this measurement toward red. If you have your screen and you have this toward red, can you raise your hand? Watch, you'll prove me wrong and like no one will have their hand up. I see some people. Thank you. That makes me feel better. Okay. I want to change the word a smidge for you because it's helping people understand the measurement better. I want you to replace the word indifferent with the word preoccupied. Indifferent sort of gives the feeling that um, you don't care or that it's not important to you. And that's not really what this is saying. It's telling me that your habits of thinking are causing you to miss opportunities to notice what is important to other people. You may be so caught up in your own ambition, your own busyness, your own destination focus that you are not noticing the people around you. It's like you don't have enough energy left to notice them. The first question I would ask you if you do have risk here is this happening more with your clients or coworkers or with your companions? Meaning the people you live with, the people who are most important in your life. In other words, are you giving your attention all day to whomever you serve or work with and coming home exhausted, not noticing things that are most important to the most important people in your life? I did not like that question when he asked it because it felt a little close to home. And I wonder if we aren't all training our brains to be preoccupied with all of our devices, and especially our phones. If we are just creating this habit of constantly being distracted and then continuing it. I have been out to eat so many times lately where I look around me and everyone at the tables around me is on their phones. And it really kind of bugs me the most when it's kids, like, and families, and they're just all on their phones and no one is talking. Or when it's a couple, I don't know why it bothers me more, but it just feels spooky. It feels sort of eerie to me that we're with the most important people in our lives, and yet we're distracted by all the people who we aren't with. So I'm just challenging myself to leave my phone in my bag, to not even have it where I can feel a buzz or a vibration, to consider how the people who are closest to me are experiencing me when I'm with them. Do they feel seen? Do they feel noticed? Do they feel heard? And then I would ask the question, what are you preoccupied with that is keeping you from noticing people? And is what you're preoccupied with more important than the people in front of you, or is it just a trained distraction? So that's a measurement I wanted to really hone in on today and just really dig into as a challenge to all of us who are maybe being trained by our devices in a way that isn't beneficial to our world. So, okay, now we're going to dig in next. Well, let's go ahead and go to the supportive measurement. So, this measurement has the word supportive in the middle of it. And if your risk is to the left, it's towards skeptical. And if your risk is to the right, it's toward naive. So, if you're on the PDF, again, this is going to be found on page 6. If you have the assessment pulled up on the screen and you have your tabs there, you're going to click on connection and it's going to be the third bar down. So you can click on that third bar. Let's start with skeptical. So if you have a risk of falling into this habit of thinking, your mind is over focused on what's wrong with people or what could be wrong with people when you meet them, especially if you think the person is like their actions are inconsistent with their beliefs and values or what they're telling you they are. So let's say someone says they're a leader, and then you're seeing behavior that isn't showing up as a leader would behave. Your mind is going to lock in on the things that are inconsistent. You will go to negative really quickly, and you're constantly hyper vigilant looking for those kinds of inconsistencies. I see this happen a lot when people have worked in kind of a toxic work situation where they've had a boss or a leader who was very incongruent with their belief systems or what they were professing to believe. Or, when there's the mission statement on the wall, but the behavior doesn't really align with that. I also will often call this measurement anticipation. So your brain is sort of like when you're approaching people, you've got your fists up and you're anticipating, you're bracing for the first punch and kind of preparing that they're going to punch at you. It's over focused on signs or signals that something could be wrong. So here's the interesting thing about this measurement. You might have it, you may have created this habit of thinking, like I said, because it helped you survive in a certain situation. But we all have these things in our brain. They're called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are firing in split-second increments, and they are what are helping us determine if someone is actually dangerous or if we should trust them. This happens before even a word is spoken. Someone can be walking towards you and you are reading really, really fast. Hundreds of muscles in their face, their posture, their energy. Your mirror neurons are on high alert. If you have this measurement towards skeptical, that person who's walking towards you will receive you as being kind of abrasive, or they will feel uncomfortable with you. Even if you haven't said a word and they haven't said a word, it happens in seconds. So, this habit of thinking can cause people to shy away from you before the conversation even begins, or they can kind of be unsure of how to read you. Or people with this measurement will often say to me that people tell them often, "Oh, you are so much different than what I thought you were going to be when I first met you." So fascinating. It's like your bracing is causing them to feel uncomfortable with you and they aren't sure how to read you. Uh, okay, so that's skeptical. On the other side, if you have risk that leans toward naive, again, same bar, but leaning toward naive on the opposite side. So this would be toward the right. This would cause you to look only at the positives in people, particularly if they profess similar beliefs. Maybe they go to the same church as you, or they're in the same company as you, or they went to the same college as you. Your brain will focus in on the positive. Maybe they have the same political beliefs as you, or the same business beliefs, or they like the same music as you. I mean, there could be many things that cause us, but you will create unrealistic expectations for their behavior based on those professed beliefs if you have this measurement toward naive. And then it can be really frustrating when they don't live up to those expectations. So here's the goal if you have risk in this area. I always say you should hold up your hands on either side of your face, kind of like this. And if you can imagine that on the right side, on the right hand side, you have all of the good characteristics of a person. And then on the left side, you have all of the red flags. These are potential issues that maybe you should keep this person at a distance, or maybe just things that you can't trust. What you want is to have your face be facing straight ahead so that you can see both of the positives and the negatives, instead of having your face be naive or skeptical. We want it to be straightforward and let the person's behavior, let your interactions with them slowly over time help you to determine whether that person is someone that you want to connect with more deeply, or whether you need to have a boundary and keep them more at a distance. So that's the goal in connecting with people in this area. Okay, next, second habit of thinking that we're going to talk about is the one that in the middle it says tolerant. I want you to look at this. If there's someone on the call today who would be a guinea pig for me, if we don't, it's okay. But if you have the measurement toward protective and you would be willing to be a guinea pig, just kind of say me in the chat and I'll pull you on. If we don't have anyone with this measurement, that's okay. I'm going to dig in and start talking about it. But again, this is in the center of the bar. It's the fourth one down on the PDF, or on the screen, and it has the word tolerant in the middle. I'm looking for someone with risk toward protective. So let me give you a quick explanation of what this looks like. I call this the underdog measurement. So this means that your brain finds it incredibly difficult to say no to the person who others view as unacceptable, unsalvageable, or even dangerous. You don't see the risks in relationships with people like this. and you tend to overextend in your giving with them. Um, I will often ask a series of questions if you have risk in this area. So I'm going to give them to you now. You can kind of chew on it, but it's who do you feel responsible to help or save? What underrepresented group do you fight for? And is there any risk in that? When you go to dinner, who pays the bill? That's an interesting one. Or have you ever lent money to someone and they didn't pay you back? Or have you ever let someone stay at your house and then they wouldn't leave? And what are you hoping to gain by constantly coming to the rescue? Also, does your brain tell you that if you don't help this person, you're the bad guy, that it's your fault, or that for some reason you have responsibility to take care of this underdog? There's a high risk in this area because you can really kind of get sucked in, and your brain is giving you all this guilt about what you should be doing to support this person and how you should be protecting them, when really it's damaging and detrimental to you and also that person. Like you're kind of over giving. So that's the protective. What about if you have risk to the other side toward uncomfortable? So this measurement tells me that your brain is causing you to feel uncertain or uncomfortable around people who have different beliefs or values or ideas or opinions. Maybe you were raised in a really small town. Maybe you were raised in a very fundamentalist or religious environment. Maybe you encounter someone from another country or who looks different from you or who practices a different religion than yours. Maybe they have a septum or a lot of visible tattoos, or maybe, there's lots of different visual cues that can tell us this person is different. What this habit of thinking is causing you to do is to feel more uncomfortable around that person. And your brain is essentially triggering a stronger danger signal to you even before you've met the person or had any interaction with them, based on cues and what you've learned about the person. And maybe it isn't that strong, but you definitely feel awkward or you feel uncomfortable when you're encountering people that are different from you. So if you have risk in this area, I will often ask these questions. I'll say, what is it like for you to have conversations with people on the other side of the political aisle? Or what about with people who have fundamentally different religious beliefs than you? Or how often do you socialize? Um, or how often do you socialize with people who believe differently than you do about a variety of topics or issues? Um, have you had an experience where you went out of the way to create a good relationship with someone who had fundamentally different values or beliefs or opinions? And what were the challenges in that? And what was the outcome? It's important in this area to not lean in and overprotect people who could be dangerous or detrimental. Also, not to push people away because they're different. And again, this isn't judgment. This is like happening at a subconscious level. Your brain, you don't even know this is happening. It's just happening all below the surface. So, very, very important. Okay, let me give you a couple of recommendations if you do have risk here. The goal is to live free from bias or prejudice based on any external thing. So we don't trust people more who are like us or distrust people more who aren't. We treat people fairly and accurately based on their behavior and their treatment of us. So we're acquiring data, we're looking for cues, we're watching how they treat other people, and we're assessing that. We're not looking at all of these external characteristics because we aren't our beliefs any more than they are their beliefs. We can believe things strongly, but it isn't who you are. It's just your belief. It's just a habit of thinking or a thought. And you could be missing out on really, really valuable personal or business opportunities because of this habit of thinking. Also, I want to draw attention to the fact that algorithms that run social media platforms are systems that are designed to sort us. So systems are designed to put people into categories. That's what they do. Valuable for certain things. But relationships are not systems. Relationships are nuanced and they are complex. We want a variety of people in our lives. We want a variety of people showing up in our social media feed so that we don't get locked into this us and them type of thinking. Because we, again, are hardwired for survival. So we will categorize people as enemies. But also, when we get close to people, no matter how different they are from us, when we get in close proximity to people, we are hardwired to also care for one another. Once past that original danger, it's really difficult for a human being to harm someone else, especially when they work alongside them every day, or when they share meals with them, or when they learn that they have children, or they learn about their own challenges. So I want to tell you this story. I found myself recently in a car of people, and I would say we haven't really talked about it openly, but I can kind of surmise that we probably have very different political beliefs. Very different. Me being the different one of the people in the car. So we were driving in this urban area. There were lots of unhoused people living on the streets, lots of tents, lots of garbage, lots of communities of people who don't have homes living in the streets. And I was listening to the comments in the car about whose fault this was, about what should be done about it, about what it meant. Um, just a lot of different comments. And it could, like, if you could have taken their perception of what we were driving by and then mine and put them on a piece of paper, there would have been no crossover. There would have been no Venn diagram. We were not intersecting at all. It was completely different. And inside, I was feeling all of these really intense feelings, anger, frustration. I wanted to like correct them. I wanted to share my perspective. I wanted to convince them of my perspective of the situation. I wanted to get out of the car. But I made myself sit in the discomfort and I had to sit with a few different things. So here are a few things that I challenged myself with. One, they are listening to and watching very different media sources than I do. And their perceptions of what's happening in our world are shaped by those media sources, just like mine are. And I just needed to sit with that as an actual fact. Number two, allowing them to have their beliefs doesn't mean that mine are wrong or that I need to change mine or that I even need to share them if it's not an appropriate context. I could kind of just let them have their beliefs and I can have mine without getting all upset about it. That was the interesting thing. I was so activated. My heart was racing. I was kind of sweating, I was feeling all of these really intense feelings. And then, even if I do have an emotional response to their comments, which I can't really control that, I'm going to react how I react. Like I'm going to feel things. I cannot deny the character of the people that I was in this car with. I have known them for years, years, and I have observed them. I have interacted with them so many times, and they are people of great character. And they also are undeniably successful in their businesses. And I had to sit with that, right? So what then? How do I reconcile these like clashing things? And am I going to, and this is really where I landed, am I going to let our differing beliefs in this one area keep me from all that I could learn from them? Keep me from a relationship with them? Is my need to be right that strong? Or can I stand in the discomfort of knowing I disagree with humility and curiosity and love and nuance and stay in a relationship with them? And I think finding balance in this habit in particular requires that you you stand in the discomfort all the time of these different truths, very different from me, and yet connected to me and very kind. Or maybe it's different, right? I mean, there's so many things, but what I want you to know is that my initial reaction, I had to let myself sort of sit with it and kind of process it before I could just react. The goal with this habit of thinking is to be accurate in your assessment of people, to see the big picture and to not just get pigeonholed into why you need to save them or what's wrong with them or why they're different or why you need to keep them away from you, but to see the wholeness of the people in front of you. I would also recommend if you have risk in this area to build a team of people around you who have a lot of discernment about people. Is what I'm seeing here accurate? I have watched so many people get into relationships where I thought, oh, you should ask me what I think. You should ask me what I think. You should ask me what I think. And they don't, but I can't say anything because they didn't ask me what I thought. But I want them to because I'm seeing some red flags and they're so focused on just the good. And so just making sure that you not only have people like that in your life who will tell you, but that you listen when they tell you, that you pay attention to their warnings. Also, just a thought, I'm going to pull up this screen here to show you your relationships, your life. Oh, shoot. Oh, did I close it down? Curtis is even on, and now he's gonna know I messed up. This is so great. Hold on, let me pull up the slideshow again. Um, because I want you to pay attention to this too. Slideshow. There we go. Okay. So when you're thinking about relationships in your life, I want you to think about a target. I want you to think about this picture of a target where people start on the outside when you meet them. And they should. And you should not immediately let them into the center of your world when you first meet them. Creating these new relationships with people, even in business or personal lives, always should start from that external ring, more boundaried, more cautious, watching, observing, taking in information, experiencing things with them, watching how they treat other people. I love to watch how people treat waiters and waitresses or servers at restaurants. I love to watch how people talk to the people who are helping them in any way, right? But watching and just collecting data. As they prove worthy of your trust, they can move in toward the center and have more access to you. Also, at any time, they can move back out in your ring of target. They do not have to stay the same at any time. They can always be moving. And honestly, in the pursuit of new relationships, they should always be moving in and out, in and out, in and out. And in life, as you travel, some friendships are very, very close and then they get more distant. And some are very distant and then they get closer because you're in a different season of life. So I want you to just think about that. Like, who am I letting in? Who am I keeping out? If you do not trust yourself to protect yourself and keep people out that will hurt you, you'll keep everyone out. And you will not have this broad variety of people. I want people at every level of that target. I want the surfacey friend who maybe you just see once a year. I want the more close, intimate, connected friend who's in the inner circle and who knows everything. I want every variety of person in between there. But it should just look like this beautiful tapestry of different amounts of access that people have to you and always moving and fluid. All right. Next, we're going to dig into this measurement that is candid. So that in the center of the bar, again, this is on page 7 if you're on the PDF. If you have the assessment pulled up on your screen with the tabs, you're going to click on connection, and it's the second to the bottom bar in that category. It says candid in the middle, and to the left, it says poor performance. Okay, we're going to start. What does it mean if you have risk toward dismissive? This is this habit is a quick trigger when you're giving feedback. You're at high risk of just flicking someone away from you quickly and dismissing them at the first sign of confrontation. And you may not pause, but you'll just react instead of asking questions and leaning in with curiosity. It's an all or nothing mindset and very extreme. Something happens and it's like, I'm done with you. I'm done with this person before they can even explain their perspective. So when someone fails to perform or they fail to live up to your expectations, rather than leaning in and having a conversation, you just dismiss them. Okay. Also, you'll have a tendency to react too quickly. Maybe you sometimes have the wish, like, oh, I wish I would have paused, or I wish I wouldn't have responded so quickly because later when I found out what really happened, it was different than what I expected. The other side of the bar is I see this one very frequently, particularly more common with women in my experience, and it is the non confrontational. So, this is what a habit of thinking that shows up when you are addressing poor performance or inappropriate behavior. Your brain is telling you you have two options. You do nothing, so you leave it alone, or you do something very drastic. That's what your brain is saying. It is not, it is telling you if you address this behavior, it is going to create more stress, not less. And so it justifies you not addressing the situation. Also, if you have this habit of thinking, I want you to write down, I am not being nearly as clear with people as I think I am. I think I'm being clear, but even when I think I'm being clear, I'm barely touching the surface of addressing this problem. So I have a sentence for you if this is a habit of thinking that is yours. And I'm going to share my screen one more time so you can write it down. Here it is. You are constantly giving people tacit approval for unacceptable behavior. You are constantly giving people tacit approval for unacceptable behavior. This habit is like you're walking around with a gunny sack in your hand, like a very large gunny sack. And as people are doing things that are inappropriate or rude or unacceptable, rather than addressing them, you're chucking them angrily into your bag. And then at some point in the day, maybe not on the person who was behaving badly, you will dump that bag out. Or more commonly, what I see in women is that they absorb the blow of that bag on themselves by overeating, buying things that they don't really need, uh, having another glass of wine. They indulge in these coping behaviors because they don't know what to do with all of this built up like frustration that they haven't been able to voice. And it often creates more damage to them than just having the uncomfortable conversation would have. Uh, in her work, when she was writing the book Dare to Lead, Brene Brown asked her team of researchers to answer this question. What do leaders most need to change in order to succeed in our constantly changing, increasingly challenging world? And one of the most common answers that they got was we must stop avoiding tough conversations, including giving honest, productive feedback. Her research showed that most leaders attributed avoiding the conversation to a lack of courage, a lack of skills, but more than half of the people that they interviewed said they were trying to be nice and polite. And that's why they were avoiding the tough conversation. So most of us avoid tough conversations about attitude or behavior or poor performance. We do not tackle the issue head on, but it ends up causing all sorts of issues. So Susan Scott wrote this book, and I'm going to pull this quote up too. I, I can't tell you how many times a week I send this to someone. One of my clients who's struggling with an employee or a team member who is not performing, because it's such a powerful quote. We tend to hold out hope that marginal employees will magically transform themselves overnight into high performers. I don't know about you, but I have not yet witnessed a spontaneous recovery from incompetence or bad attitude. As a leader, you get what you tolerate. I'm going to have you throw in the chat. I want you to look at this quote on your screen. I want you to throw in the chat what part of this quote stands out to you the most. What part of the line? There's no right answer. I'm just curious. We tend to hold out hope that marginal employees will magically transform themselves overnight into high performers. I'm going to change this into my own words because I want to put a personal spin on it too. We tend to hold out hope that dysfunctional people will magically transform themselves overnight into kind, caring human beings. I don't know about you, but I have not yet witnessed a spontaneous recovery from dysfunction or cruelty or manipulative behavior or emotional abuse or sneaky gossip or irresponsible choices or lack of participation in carrying the load of unpaid labor or consistently making poor financial decisions. You get what you tolerate. I don't see people magically transforming themselves. Now, if they're engaged in doing the work, very different story. But again, I don't see that happen very often. So again, throw in the chat what part of this quote stands out to you. Let me actually come back over here and get back to my chat. Oh, this is me too, Darla. You get what you tolerate. Same, Maureen. Like you get what you tolerate. Oh, I got a lot of those. As a parent, you get what you tolerate. I love that, Ashley. Yeah. Expecting change without any interaction, transform themselves without a conversation. Yes. The transformation isn't going to happen if no work is being done. You can make a decision based on the information you have right there and not avoid it. I don't know if any of you have heard me talk about the book Unbound. I'm going to actually throw it in the chat right now. Unbound by Kasia Urbaniak. It was my book of the year in 2025. I still haven't read one that's better this year. I've been reading a lot too. But this book it's like a woman's guide to power. I think that's the subtitle. It's a red book. In this book, she's talking about how women were taught to deal with power and how we generationally survived by being quiet and agreeable and attaching ourselves to typically a man who provided for our needs. And so we learned that harnessing power and walking in our power and owning our power was dangerous, just as women in general. But one of the exercises that she has in the book is called the Conversations I'm Not Having Audit. And I thought I would share it with you, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. But I did this, and it is so powerful. Before you do this audit, you must know that you do not have to have these conversations right away. And in fact, some of them you might never have. It's okay. But we've got to really get this out and on paper. And so, what you're going to do is at the top of your paper, you're going to write, I am not having a conversation. And I'm going to put this in the chat for you. I am not having a conversation with blank about blank. So you write that at the top of your paper. I am not having a conversation with blank about blank. And then you give yourself a period of time where you fill in as many as you can. The goal is quantity. So you just want to get it all out on paper. I'm not having a conversation with my son about how he never empties the dishwasher without being asked. I'm not having a conversation with my mom about my dad's increasing forgetfulness. I'm not having a conversation with my work peer about the mistakes he consistently makes on the monthly report that I need. I'm not having, and you can get the idea. Everything, you just get it out of your system. You want as long of a list as you can. And I want you to go through every area of your life, work and home and organizations and volunteerism and churches and family relationships, extended family relationships. Like, where are you avoiding these tough conversations? And then I want you to ask yourself as you're going through this exercise, what feelings are coming up? Is it anger? Is it rage? Is it powerlessness? Is it frustration, resentment? How are you feeling? Or is it just annoyance? Some of them will just be silly little things. Um, and then are you currently stuffing these feelings down? Or are you having the conversation and releasing them? Are you coping with these feelings on your own and holding them all? Or are you expressing them in a calm way so then you can move on and let them go? And what is the cost of you avoiding these conversations? What's the cost to you? What's the cost to the person you're not having the conversation with? What's the cost to the organization? But I'm not having a conversation with blank about blank. And I want you to fill in as many of those things as you possibly can. The final thing I want to say in this section before I wrap up is if I saw this non-confrontational habit, if I saw you had risk in this area, the question I would ask you is who in your life is draining you spiritually, financially, or emotionally, but you don't know how to confront that person without creating more stress? Who in your life is draining you, but you don't know how to confront him or her without creating more stress? And are you rationalizing not having those conversations with people on your team, in your family, in your friend group? Are you often then exploding later or running away? Okay, so let's wrap up. We made it through. Didn't get to every single one, but I hope that gives you a good overview. And I want to take you back to the beginning, which is why does it matter? Why should we connect with people more deeply? Or why should we want to even connect with people at all? What are the benefits and what is the resistance that we're experiencing keeping us from? Well, first of all, we're social beings. We are created to live and grow in communities, in relationships with people. We are not designed to live life alone. Number two, almost everything we long for, a better job, earning more money, meaningful romantic relationships, better friendships, fun, enjoyment. They are on the other side of connecting with people. Like we get to those things through our connection with people. And in addition, long term research shows that our connection with people has huge impacts on our physical, emotional, and mental health. This is about all of you. These relationships are vital to a healthy you. And again, I want to remind you of that target. Connecting with people does not mean you're letting everyone in. In fact, you'll never connect with people if you think that's what it is. If you can't trust yourself to protect yourself, you'll never build that rich uh, target filled with different kinds of relationships in your life. This is about letting the people in who are beneficial and keeping the others at appropriate distances from you. It's about your ability to intuit and to communicate in ways that allow you to move people in and out of that target all the time. So I'll wrap up with just a couple of challenges because I always like to do that. A lot of my book is about this. And even though it might not be called that, a lot of my book, but especially chapters 6 and 7, which are focused on boundaries, are about connecting with people. And really, it's interesting. I've realized I can't create anything without connecting with people. I have this second book that's chasing me down right now, and I'm resisting it. No, I'm actually starting to take some millimeter steps, though it will be years before I get to where I want it to be. But the only way I can create is through connection with people. And so I've gathered a group of people over this summer that are I'm just gonna ask them questions about the premise of this book and what it means and how to, but I don't, I cannot move forward if I don't have those people to bounce off of, especially with something that feels so vulnerable. So I would invite you to read or listen to my book if you have never done that. That would be one challenge I would give you. I also would invite you to do more work with your habits of thinking very intentionally. My fall groups, if you're a guy, I'm sorry, this isn't for you. Although, Curtis, I can see you on. You can always be part of one of my groups because you're like yeah, you're always welcome. But my fall groups will start on September 9th, where we dig into all of these habits of thinking. I'm having an informational session on August 19th. In the follow-up email, I'll send you the link where you can sign up for that informational session so that you can get information about groups. Also, if you're a graduate of Encounter, back by popular demand, this semester's Encounter 2 group was so cool. We're going to do it again in the fall. So these are for clients who have already gone through a group before or have been a one-on-one client of mine. If you want to be a part of a group Encounter 2 in the fall, I am going to do another Encounter group semester this fall. All of that is currently up on my website. So all of the information about Encounter and Encounter 2. And then last, if you would like to work through these habits of thinking in more of a one-on-one setting with just me, we just simplified my website because I was like, why are we making this so hard? Where you can purchase a package of coaching sessions with me, go to amykemp.com, click on coaching, and you can say, I want to work with Amy in a one-on-one setting. And you'll see there's packages of 3, 6, and 12 sessions that you can purchase at any time just by clicking on those links. This is you and I digging into specifically your habits of thinking, your subconscious habits of thinking, and how they're holding you back in a one-on-one engagement, just the two of us. So, thank you for being here, everyone. I hope that you took some great things away. I hope it helps you connect with people better, and that we all, in a time of, in a time where a lot of people are telling us that we're more divided than ever, I'm going to contend that we're not, or I'm going to have hope that we're going to use our connection, our relationships with other people to overcome that belief and to really make the world a better place. So, thanks, everyone. I appreciate you being here.